Welcome to this lecture on hypothesis testing in regression. Imagine you are a judge in a courtroom and a new variable is brought in as a suspect. The charge is that this variable has a real, measurable effect on the outcome we are trying to predict. In the world of statistics, every variable is presumed innocent until proven guilty. Today, we are going to learn how to conduct this mathematical trial. We will explore how to evaluate our models and determine if the evidence in our data is strong enough to prove that a variable actually matters. Let us dive in. To begin our mathematical trial, we must understand the two competing claims at the heart of hypothesis testing. Why does this matter? Because without a formal process, we might mistake random noise for a real pattern. We start with the null hypothesis, which is our baseline assumption that there is absolutely no relationship between our variables. The competing claim is the alternative hypothesis, stating that a real relationship does exist. To decide between them, we calculate a test statistic. This is a single number summarizing how far our observed data deviates from what we would expect if the null hypothesis were true. We then find a p-value, which tells us the probability of seeing our data by pure random chance. If this probability is extremely low, we reject the null hypothesis. Now that we understand the basic framework of hypothesis testing, let us look at how we evaluate our entire model. Before we interrogate individual variables, we usually want to know if our overall model is actually better than just guessing the average. We do this by breaking apart the total variation in our data into two distinct pieces. First, we have the variation that our model successfully explains. Second, we have the leftover variation, or the random noise, that our model cannot explain. By comparing this explained variation to the unexplained variation, we can judge the overall quality and usefulness of our model. If the model is good, it should explain a large portion of the total variation. This brings us to the fundamental equation for partitioning variation. Conceptually, this formula simply states that the total spread of our data is the sum of what we can explain and what we cannot. Let us look at the symbols. SST stands for the total sum of squares, which is the total spread of the target variable. SSR is the regression sum of squares, representing the portion of the spread that our mathematical model successfully captures. Finally, SSE is the error sum of squares, representing the random noise or mistakes our model makes. As SSR increases and SSE decreases, it means our model is doing a much better job of explaining the real-world data. Building on those sums of squares, we can now calculate the F statistic, which acts as the final score for our overall model. Conceptually, this formula is a ratio of the average explained variation to the average unexplained variation. In this equation, F is our test statistic. The variable k represents the number of predictor variables we are using, and n represents the total number of data points we collected. The numerator divides the explained variation by k to find the average explained variation per variable. The denominator divides the unexplained variation by the remaining degrees of freedom, which is n minus k minus 1. If the resulting f value is much larger than 1, it proves our model explains significantly more variation than random noise would. Once we know the overall model works using the F-test, we must interrogate each variable individually to ensure it is pulling its own weight. Why is this necessary? Because sometimes a model is useful overall, but one specific variable inside it is actually doing nothing and just taking up space. To test a single variable, we look at its estimated coefficient, which tells us how much the outcome changes when this specific variable increases. We then compare this coefficient to its standard error. The standard error is the average amount we expect our estimate to bounce around, just due to random bad luck in our sampling. If the coefficient is much larger than its standard error, we can be confident the effect is real. To formalize this comparison, we use the individual t-test formula. Conceptually, this formula calculates how many steps of random noise our measured effect is away from zero. Let us break down the symbols. The letter T is the test statistic for our individual variable. The symbol beta hat sub j represents the estimated coefficient for the specific variable we are testing, showing its measured effect. The denominator SE of beta hat sub j is the standard error of that coefficient, acting as a measure of uncertainty or fuzziness around our estimate. As the estimated coefficient gets larger or as the uncertainty gets smaller, the t-value increases. A larger t-value makes us more certain that the variable is truly impactful. Before we move on, let us see this with a concrete example. Let us imagine we are predicting a student's test score based on the number of hours they studied. We are given that the estimated coefficient for study hours is 4.5, meaning we expect the score to go up by 4.5 points per hour. However, we are also given that the standard error for this estimate is 1.5. We need to determine if this effect is statistically significant or just random noise. To solve this, we choose the individual t-test formula because we are evaluating a single predictor. We will take our estimated effect and divide it by the uncertainty of that effect. Continuing with our calculation, we substitute the estimated coefficient of 4.5 into the numerator and the standard error of 1.5 into the denominator. This sets up our ratio of signal to noise. Dividing 4.5 by 1.5 gives us a final t-statistic of 3.0. In practical terms, this means our measured effect is 3 times larger than the expected random noise. In statistics, a t-value of 3 is generally considered very strong evidence. We can confidently reject the assumption that study hours have no effect. This final answer physically proves that studying genuinely improves test scores, separating the true signal from the background noise. So we have seen how to test the whole model and how to test individual variables. This brings us to a beautiful mathematical bridge connecting the overall f-test and the individual t-test. This connection specifically applies when we are only looking at a single predictor variable, known as simple linear regression. In this scenario, where we only have one independent variable, testing the whole model is exactly the same as testing that one specific variable. Because they are testing the exact same thing, their test statistics are perfectly linked. This proves that both methods are fundamentally looking at the same underlying truth about the data, just from slightly different mathematical angles. This simple equation shows the direct relationship between the two tests for a single variable. Conceptually, it tells us that the overall model score is just the squared value of the individual variable score. The symbol F represents the F statistic from the overall model test. The symbol T represents the T statistic from testing the single coefficient. Squaring the T value will always yield the F value in a model with exactly one predictor. For instance, if a variable has a t-score of 3, the overall model will have an f-score of 9. As the t-value grows, indicating stronger evidence for the variable, the f-value grows exponentially, indicating stronger evidence for the model as a whole. Now consider a different scenario, where we are predicting crop yield based on the amount of fertilizer used. This is a simple linear regression with only one predictor variable. We are given that the regression sum of squares is 100 and the error sum of squares is 400. We have 102 total data points. We want to find the overall F statistic and then use the special relationship to find the T statistic for the fertilizer variable. We choose the F-test variance formula first to find the overall model score. We know the number of predictors is 1 and the total number of data points is 102. Continuing our calculation, we place the explained variation of 100 over the one predictor variable in the numerator. In the denominator, we place the unexplained variation of 400 over the remaining degrees of freedom, which is 102 minus 1 minus 1. We simplify the denominator's degrees of freedom to 100. This shows that we are dividing the 400 units of error evenly across the 100 independent pieces of leftover information. The numerator simplifies to 100, which is our mean square for regression. The denominator simplifies to 4, which is our mean square for error. This means the model explains 100 units of variance, while the average random noise is only 4 units. Finally, dividing 100 by 4 gives us a final F statistic of 25. Because this number is much larger than 1, it strongly proves that our model is useful. Now, because this model only has one predictor variable, we can use the special relationship to find the t statistic for the fertilizer variable without doing any extra complex math. We take the square root of our F statistic, which is 25, to find the corresponding t statistic. The resulting t statistic is 5. This tells us that the estimated effect of the fertilizer is 5 times larger than its standard error. Both tests lead us to the exact same conclusion. The fertilizer has a massive, undeniable impact on the crop yield. The diagram you are looking at visually explains how we make our final decision using the F statistic we just calculated. The black curve represents the probability density, showing all the possible F values we might get if the variable was actually useless and we were just seeing random noise. The horizontal axis represents the F value. Notice the vertical dashed line labeled critical value. To the left is the white region where we fail to reject the null hypothesis. Most of the time, random noise produces a small F value near the peak. However, our calculated F value of 25 lands far out to the right in the red shaded tail called the rejection region. The chances of landing in that red zone by pure luck are incredibly tiny. Therefore, we reject the idea that it was luck and conclude the variable has a real effect. To wrap up our lecture, let us review the most important ideas we have covered. First, hypothesis testing in regression is the ultimate gatekeeper. It allows us to separate true signals from random background noise. Second, we use the overall F test to evaluate if the entire model is useful, comparing explained variation to unexplained error. Third, we use the individual t-test to evaluate the specific impact of individual variables. Finally, remember that for a single variable, these two tests are mathematically identical, linked by the simple rule that the F statistic is the square of the t statistic. By mastering these tests, you can confidently defend your statistical models against any skepticism. You have now covered the full topic of hypothesis testing in regression.